boys and girls, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. I got a new pattern for you today, something a little different that I've never done before. I was talking to a guy down in New Mexico about some new beads, and he told me about some of these glass beads that the kids are using to make bracelets and jewelry and things like that. I like the look of the pattern that he was using, to where the bead almost kind of has a squarish look. And I found these little beads that are Japanese seed beads. These are size 11. Here is a caddis green color. They're not actually caddis green, but that's what I'm calling them. But yeah, essentially you buy them in a pack. This was a big pack, obviously. Hundreds of these things in here. You can buy all of these colors, a lifetime supply, for about 12 or 13 bucks. I got them at Michael's. The size is what's different from, you know, bead to bead to bead. Most of these little ones that we're going to be using here today are what they call an 11-aught, which is about a little bit bigger than a 2mm bead. I found another 11-aught that is even smaller than that. So I'm not sure how consistent that is. You're just gonna have to try it out. But the differences between the beads, you can see on this one here, a little bit of see-through transparency here. Some of these other ones that I've tied do not have that, and I don't know if they just don't have the right look. It's just different. So I'll show you a couple of those at the end. But essentially what we're looking at here, I got a size 16 hook. This is a Firehole 718, which is just an extra long, 16 size hook. I have Fulling Mill. This is a 2.8mm matte black for the head, and the beads, like I said, come in thankfully. I'll say thankfully because I've dropped and shot across the room probably more than I've gotten on the hook, so it's good to have a nice supply of them. The other things that we're using, Semperfli is using this gel core microfritz for the breathers and the little hairy effect we want to get on here. For a tail on this one here, I have a little bit of straggle string, which is another Semperfli product, but I think it's a little bit easier just to use some whole tinsel. This is like another caddis green. And Semperfli Nano Silk 12-aught, for the thread that I'm tying on. The hardest thing with this is getting these little seed beads on the hook and keeping them there. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. I'll show you what we have to do here. As far as the easiest way I found to do it is just use a pair of pliers or a super fine pair of tweezers. So I get the main bead on there, and I'll just set it in the vise, tighten it up like that so we can expose the hook. Get your tweezers and try to get these on here without spilling as many as possible. Now for this pattern, these yellow beads that I put on are a little bit bigger than pink ones that I had tried. So I can only get 4 on here. And the toughest thing about this was how to make the butt side of the bug when I was trying to design this. Easiest way is pull it out and just spin it in your fingers, reattach. And this is ultimately what we're looking at to start the fly. Now these little beads, these yellow that you can see how bright and shiny they are, they're what they called silver lined. So I think it's the hole that's drilled in there When you look at it from the top, it certainly looks like it's silver on the inside, so it's a neat little effect. I picked the name Yinzer because, you know, being from Pittsburgh, and everybody from Pittsburgh who's truly from Pittsburgh is a Yinzer. That's just another Pittsburghese term. And of course it's going to be black and gold because it has to be. That's the law. And to start this off, easiest way I found to do this is we need to have a little bit of spacing in between these beads. So I start the thread at the back, wind it down the hook a little bit, and I just cut that tag off, and then we get a little piece of that holo tinsel. Tie that across the hook here and try to cover it up completely, going back up to the bead. Now you can still see there's a little bit of movement in there, and that's kind of what you want. I was gonna think about doing some type of spacer to put in between there, but it's just kind of haphazard. It's a little bit easier just to kind of go with it and, you know, make the spacing as you're tying things up. Gonna tie a piece of this gel core microfits on the back, and you can tell that I'm just kind of building up a little bit of a thread dam in here. As you're tightening this up, you might want to stick your fingernails in between, you know, just to make sure that you're going to have a little bit of space before you bring this thread up through. I'm going to cut the tag off of this, and we're going to cut the tag off of that. Usually what I've been finding, I just tie about a 1/4 inch, you know, past there. If you've ever dug caddises out of the creek, you know, they have that little silky tail that, you know, they use to produce their nets and stuff. And it's just a little bit of added sparkle. I tried a couple different things. Even tried using some like solar res just to put a little hot spot on the back of there. That one was green, this one's pink, but also this is a different hook that you can tell kind of crowds the gap a bit, you know, when you start to put 4 of these little beads on. That's why I decided to go with something that was a little bit longer and seemed to work out perfect. After we get that tied on there, you want to wind loosely in between these gaps, and I try to use my fingernail to position the underside, because you can see how the string is going to go over the bead a little bit, and you want to try to keep that on the bottom side of the hook. That'll create, when we put this straggle string, or not straggle string, on this microfits on, try to keep your crossovers on the bottom side. That way it looks more like legs, you know, more like little breathers. Still gives it that little bit of a hairy look, you know, which you are going to find with the caddis. You don't want it to overwhelm the beads. So, you know, I figured, you know, we got 2 wraps in between each of the little segments, and then once we get up to the top, you know, we'll tighten up and put a little bit bigger collar on there. I'm going to tie this string off. And when you do this, try to put a wrap behind that first bead, and that in between those 2. And I'm pulling pretty tight on this, mostly because I want this gel core microfits to go down in between those beads, create a little bit better segmentation. You can see how it seats itself down in there, and then once we get up to the head, you know, we'll put in 3 or 4 wraps instead of just 2 wraps for the segmentation. cross over this. This thing is a pain in the ass. Pull that back once. Start to tighten that down so that we can distinguish that head a little bit better. Trim that off. Tie that down. I changed this pattern. I fished it yesterday for the first time, and I didn't use any thread. I was just tying off with the micro fritz, and it doesn't hold a knot very well by itself. Okay, so once we cut that off, I'm gonna put just a tiny little drop of UV resin on the top of the head here. Spread that around just a touch to cover that thread. A little bit of shiny look. Now we're gonna cook it. And you can see the segmentation in this thing. It looks great in the water. It actually darkens up a little bit. I don't know, just because it's, you know, reflecting the color of the water also. So a lot of the different, you know, patterns that I've tried, that's the Yinzer, black and yellow. A little bit of a tag here with the Hola tinsel. You can put whatever color you want on it. Obviously, there's thousands of options. This is that caddis green with a little bit of, you know, green micro fritz. These are a little bit darker with a lighter micro fritz. And I showed you that one. Here is the pink one. That these beads here, as you can see, these yellow ones here are all, you know, transparent, and they give it just that real bright shine. Don't really get that with, you know, with these other kind of beads. So as you're picking your colors and things like that, you can buy these little individual ones. They're a lot more expensive. I don't know why, but these pink ones still pretty opaque. And, you know, they got everything you can imagine. These are all silver. I haven't tried any of those yet. But a great color here, peach. But there's everything you can imagine in this box. I mean, God, it's, you know, has to be, you know, 30 different colors in there. And then you throw in combinations and, you know, like I said, lifetime supply. So I hope you enjoyed this. Tie a few of these up. If you get some of those beads, you can get one package of them, you know, for, you know, $3 or $4. Or if you wanted to buy the big pack, the lifetime supply, $12.99. And, you know, tie some of these up. Let me know how they fish. Look great in the water. At least the yellow ones did. That was the only one I fished yesterday. But tie them up, give them a shot. Let me know how they do. And, yeah, I wish you luck. Thanks for stopping by, guys. We'll see you.